Rain poured over Seoul like the sky was washing away someone's sins. It hit the pavement in angry streaks, bouncing off taxis and neon-lit umbrellas. Among the noise and blur, a young woman ran barefoot down the street, clutching a torn handbag to her chest. Her breath came in short bursts, fear and adrenaline tangled together like wire around her ribs. Her name was Aaliyah Carter, 23, a girl from Atlanta who'd come to South Korea chasing a dream, teaching English, maybe singing on weekends, starting fresh. But tonight, she wasn't chasing anything. She was running. "Please, not again," she whispered to herself, glancing behind her shoulder. A shadowy figure stumbled out of a bar entrance several blocks behind. Her ex, Marcus. He wasn't supposed to be here, not in Seoul. She'd left him months ago, changed her number, moved apartments. But monsters had a way of finding their prey, even halfway across the world. Her phone buzzed inside her pocket. A blocked number. She didn't have to look to know. Her pulse jumped, and she dropped the phone into a puddle, crushing it beneath her heel. Headlights flashed across her soaked face. A black luxury sedan slowed to a stop beside her, the kind of car she'd only ever seen in K-dramas. The windows were tinted dark, but when the back one slid down a few inches, she saw a man inside, sitting with the stillness of someone who wasn't used to being interrupted. For a split second, their eyes met. He looked like danger and quiet wealth wrapped in one. Sharp jawline, dark slicked-back hair, the faint scar near his left brow that made him seem carved from something unyielding. The driver glanced at her through the rain. "Miss, are you all right?" "No time," Aaliyah gasped. Her voice cracked. "Please, please, just drive. He's coming." The driver hesitated. The man in the back seat spoke, his tone calm but heavy enough to cut through thunder. "Let her in." The door unlocked with a click. She didn't think, she just slipped inside, shutting it hard. Her soaked clothes pressed against the leather interior, and her breath fogged the cool air. The man beside her turned slightly, one eyebrow raised. "You're bleeding." She looked down, a small cut on her hand from when she'd broken free from Marcus earlier. Her hands trembled. "It's nothing. Please, can we go?" The man gave a small nod, and the driver pulled away. As the car accelerated, Seoul's night lights smeared past them like wet paint. For the first time in hours, she allowed herself to breathe. The silence in the car was strange, thick, like it held questions she wasn't ready to answer. She finally spoke, her voice low. "Thank you. I didn't mean to. I just saw your car and—" The man's gaze remained fixed on her, unreadable. "Do you always run into strangers' cars?" Her cheeks burned. "No, not usually on my Saturday nights." For a moment, something like amusement flickered across his face. Then he looked out the window again. "Where do you live?" I can't go home." He didn't ask why. Somehow, he already seemed to know. The car pulled into an underground garage. The sound of tires echoing off the walls sent a chill through her. "Wait, where are we?" she asked softly. "My building," he replied simply. What?" "You're shaking," he said. "You need to clean that wound. You'll stay until I know you're safe. I can't impose." "You already have," he interrupted, but his tone wasn't cruel. It was matter-of-fact, like he was stating gravity. "Come." When he stepped out, she followed, barefoot, clutching her bag. He moved with an effortless authority, every motion calculated. Two men near the elevator bowed slightly as he passed. One whispered something in Korean that she couldn't catch, but the way they looked at him said enough. Who was this man? The elevator opened into a vast penthouse suite. Sleek black marble floors, dim lighting, glass walls framing the skyline. It smelled faintly of cologne and rain. He took off his coat and handed it to her. "You're dripping everywhere." "I'm sorry," she murmured, her voice small. He waved a hand. "Sit." She did, on the edge of a couch that probably cost more than her entire apartment. He brought her a towel and a small first aid kit, placing it gently beside her. "What's your name?" "Aaliyah." He nodded once. "June." "June," she repeated quietly. Do you want to tell me who you're running from, Aaliyah? She looked down at her cut hand. The words were hard to form. My ex. He used to hurt me. I thought I got away. I guess I was wrong. June's expression didn't change, but something dark flickered behind his eyes. You said he's in Seoul? She nodded. I saw him tonight. He followed me from my old job. I think he tracked me. June leaned back, his fingers steepled together. You did the right thing coming into that car. I didn't know who you were, she said, forcing a nervous laugh. You still don't. That made her pause. There was something about the way he said it, quiet, dangerous, absolute. What are you? She asked before she could stop herself. His lips quirked. Someone who makes problems disappear. Her heart thudded. Like the police? Not quite. He stood, walking toward the window. The skyline painted his reflection, a tall silhouette with the city burning below. You should rest. You can use the guest room. No one will bother you here. As she followed his direction, she caught glimpses of his world, framed photographs of men in suits, a gun safe half hidden behind a shelf, and a katana displayed like art. Everything about this man screamed danger, yet she felt safer than she had in months. When she reached the guest room, she hesitated at the doorway. Why did you help me? He didn't turn around. Because I saw the look in your eyes. People who've lived through fear, they recognize it. She wanted to ask more, but something about his tone told her it wasn't the time. She thanked him softly and closed the door. Inside the dim guest room, she wrapped herself in the towel, trembling less now. She heard faint voices outside, June talking in Korean to someone. The name, Marcus, slipped out. He'd already started digging into her past. And though a part of her should have been afraid, Aaliyah found herself pressing a hand to her chest, feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. When Aaliyah woke the next morning, the storm had passed, leaving the Seoul skyline washed clean under pale sunlight. The guest room smelled faintly of cedar and something warm, maybe coffee. She sat up, realizing her clothes had been neatly folded at the end of the bed, freshly laundered. A pair of slippers rested nearby. Someone had been in here while she slept. She stepped out into the living room, now quiet except for the low hum of jazz playing through hidden speakers. June sat at the dining table, dressed sharply in a charcoal suit. He looked like he'd been awake for hours. Morning, she said softly, still unsure how much space to take up in his world. He glanced up from his phone. You sleep well. I did, thank you. I didn't expect breakfast service. There's coffee, he replied, nodding toward the counter. Eat. You'll need your strength. She blinked. For what? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he slid a tablet across the table toward her. On the screen was a photo. Marcus, standing outside her old workplace, his face half hidden under a hoodie. The timestamp was last night. Aaliyah's stomach dropped. How did you get that? I have people who watch, June said simply. You weren't imagining things. He's here. Her fingers tightened around the tablet. What do you want from me, June? Nothing. He leaned back, folding his arms. But if someone's threatening a woman under my roof, it becomes my problem. Your problem? His gaze was steady. You're not safe. He's persistent. Men like that don't stop until they're stopped. She felt a tremor of fear, and something else, something dangerously close to trust. You sound like you've done this before. Let's just say I've handled worse. He stood, walked toward the window, and the light caught the faint scar on his eyebrow. I run a few businesses, he added. Nightclubs, logistics, private security. People assume things. People assume you're mafia, she said before she could stop herself. He turned. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. Do you believe them? I don't know what to believe, she admitted. You helped me. That doesn't sound like a gangster. He didn't respond. Instead, he poured himself another coffee. his silence saying more than words could. For the rest of the morning, Aaliyah stayed mostly quiet. She scrolled aimlessly through her phone, or rather, the new one he'd given her, while June made phone calls in Korean, his voice calm but authoritative. Men came and went from the penthouse, bowing respectfully each time. By noon, she finally asked, "What are you doing for me?" He didn't look up from his laptop. "Finding out where your ex is staying. I have contacts in Itaewon and Gangnam. If he's been in trouble before, I'll know by tonight." "You don't even know me." June's fingers paused mid-type. "Maybe I don't need to." She studied him for a long moment. The calm control, the way he avoided eye contact when emotion threatened to surface. There was something deeply lonely about him. Like a man who'd forgotten what softness felt like. Later that day, as dusk began to settle, he surprised her by saying, "Get dressed. We're going out." "Out? Where?" "Somewhere public. It's safer if people see us together." The words, "see us together," made her heart skip, though she tried not to show it. He took her to a high-end restaurant overlooking the Han River. She felt out of place among the chandeliers and quiet elegance, wearing one of his assistant's spare dresses. But when she caught their reflection in the glass, her small frame next to his composed figure, they almost looked like they belonged. "Everyone's staring," she whispered as they sat down. "They always do," June replied, his lips barely moving. "It's how they measure power in this city, who sits beside you, who looks afraid of you." "Should I be afraid of you?" He took a sip of wine before answering. "No. You should be afraid of what happens to the people who hurt you." Her eyes widened slightly. "You're serious?" "Completely." They ate mostly in silence, though it wasn't uncomfortable. When she dropped her fork at one point, he reached across the table and steadied her hand. It was a small gesture, but it sent warmth rushing through her chest. "Why do you care, June?" she asked quietly. "You could have just told your driver to keep going last night." He hesitated. "Because I remember what it's like to watch something you love get destroyed. And do nothing." She wanted to ask what he meant, but his eyes told her it wasn't up for discussion. As they left the restaurant, a black SUV rolled up. His bodyguard stepped out first, scanning the area. The sudden intensity made her uneasy. Inside the car, she turned to him. "You live in a completely different world than I do." "Yes," he said simply. "But you stepped into it." "I didn't mean to." "Maybe you were meant to." The words hung in the air, quiet, but electric. Back at his building, he stopped her before she could retreat to the guest room. "I need you to stay close tomorrow," he said. "We'll be moving locations." "Moving?" "I got word Marcus met with someone in Itaewon who deals in forged IDs. That means he's planning something." Her hands trembled. "You think he's coming for me?" "I know he is." She swallowed hard. "And what are you going to do?" He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "Protect you. Whatever that takes." Something in the way he said it, fierce but steady, made her feel safe in a way no locked door ever had. That night, she couldn't sleep. She wandered out to the living room, where June stood by the window, city lights reflecting in his eyes. "You don't sleep much, do you?" she asked softly. He smirked faintly. "Sleep's for people who don't have enemies." She joined him at the window, the silence between them stretching warm and fragile. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "The life you chose?" He looked at her for a long moment. "I regret what it cost me. But not what I protect." Their eyes locked, and something unspoken passed between them, an understanding that they were both running from ghosts, just different kinds. When she finally turned to leave, he said quietly, "You're safer with me than anywhere else in this city." Aaliyah paused at the doorway. "I believe you." For the first time, he smiled, small, almost invisible, but real. And that night, as she lay awake, she realized something terrifying. Her heart, bruised and cautious, had started to trust a man who ruled soul shadows. The next morning came quietly, the kind of calm that felt unnatural, like the silence before a storm. Aaliyah sat at the kitchen counter, stirring her tea though she wasn't really drinking it. Her thoughts had been looping all night. June's promise, Marcus's shadow, and that haunting feeling that her life had split in two, before the car and after. June appeared from his office, dressed in a black overcoat. He looked every inch the man she'd suspected he was, powerful, untouchable. But his eyes softened when they met hers. "You didn't sleep." "I couldn't," she admitted. "Every time I close my eyes, I see him." "Then we'll make sure you don't have to," he said simply. He handed her a small silver pendant. "Wear this. It's a tracker. If you ever get separated, I'll find you." Her fingers brushed against his as she took it. "You really plan for everything, huh?" "It's how I'm still alive," he replied dryly. The day passed in a blur of tension. June's men moved discreetly through the penthouse, checking cameras, whispering updates. Aaliyah felt like a storm was circling, waiting for a place to land. By late afternoon, June stepped outside for a brief meeting. "Stay here," he told her. "I'll be gone 20 minutes. But 20 minutes turned into 40. Then an hour. She began pacing the living room, the sound of rain starting up again outside. That's when her phone, the one June had given her, buzzed. No caller ID. Her blood turned cold. "Aaliyah," came the voice she dreaded most. "Marcus." His tone was smug, slithering. "Did you really think you could hide behind some Korean gangster?" Her breath caught. How did you get this number?" He laughed. "Doesn't matter. You're making this too easy. You're gonna come out, sweetheart. Or I'll bring the fight to your fancy new boyfriend's door." Her fingers shook. "Don't." Click. The call ended. Before she could react, the building lights flickered. Outside, the faint sound of tires screeched to a halt. Aaliyah ran to the window. Two unfamiliar cars had pulled into the garage. Men stepped out. Not June's men. Her pulse went wild. She grabbed the pendant, whispering, "Please work." Then came the gunshots, sharp, echoing through the underground floor. She dropped to the ground, heart hammering. More shouting, more noise. The elevator indicator lit up, floor by floor. Whoever it was, they were coming up. Then the front door slammed open. "Aaliyah!" June's voice cut through the chaos. He rushed in, eyes blazing. "Downstairs. Now." She obeyed instinctively, running as his men formed a wall behind him. The air was thick with shouts and the metallic smell of gunpowder. June grabbed her wrist, guiding her into a service elevator. "Keep your head down." When the doors closed, she realized his shoulder was bleeding. "You're hurt." "It's nothing," he said, grimacing. "I've had worse." "Worse than getting shot?" He almost smiled. "Once. Paper cut." Despite everything, she laughed, a shaky, terrified sound. The elevator opened into a dim parking area beneath the building. Rainwater pooled under the flickering lights. A car was waiting, engine running. June's driver opened the door. "Boss, we need to move." But before they could get in, Marcus stepped from behind a pillar, a pistol raised. His grin was feral. "Well, look at this," Marcus sneered. "The runaway and her new bodyguard." Aaliyah froze. "Marcus, please." He aimed the gun at June. "You think hiding behind him makes you safe? You're mine, Aaliyah. You always were." June stepped forward, calm despite the blood seeping through his shirt. "You should walk away." "Or what? You'll kill me," Marcus taunted. "Go ahead, gangster. Let's see if you're as tough as they say." Aaliyah's voice cracked. "Don't, please." But Marcus's hand twitched, and in that half-second, June moved. A single shot rang out. Marcus collapsed, his weapon clattering across the floor. The echo of it filled the garage, long after the noise faded. Aaliyah stood frozen, tears spilling down her cheeks. You killed him." June's chest heaved, his expression unreadable. "He would have killed you." The words were true, but they didn't make it easier. She sank to her knees, shaking. I didn't want this. I just wanted it to stop. June crouched beside her, his voice softer now. It's over, Aaliyah. You're safe. No, she whispered. You're bleeding. You're not safe either. He gave a faint smirk. I've been bleeding for years. Sirens wailed in the distance. June's men had already called in cleanup. 2 of them rushed over to help, but he waved them off. Get her out of here first. They drove through the rain until the city lights faded, heading toward the countryside. Aaliyah sat beside him in silence, her hand pressed against his wound. You saved me, she said quietly. He looked at her, eyes dark but gentle. You saved yourself when you ran. She shook her head. No. You were my second chance. For a long moment, neither spoke. Just the sound of rain hitting the windshield and the rhythm of 2 broken hearts trying to heal in the same space. When they finally reached a quiet villa outside Seoul, June leaned back against the seat, pale but composed. You can stay here until things cool down. My people will watch the city. She hesitated. And you? I'll handle the fallout. No, she said firmly, surprising even herself. You've done enough. I'm not running anymore. Not from him, not from anyone. June met her gaze, strong, steady. You really think you can stand in my world? If it means standing with you, I'll try. Something in his expression cracked, just slightly. He reached for her hand. You shouldn't want this life, Aaliyah. I don't want this life, she said softly. I want you. He froze. The rain outside softened to a whisper, as if the world itself was listening. For a man who commanded fear with a glance, June looked utterly undone. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying, she whispered. You didn't just protect me, June. You taught me that not all men break things. He closed his eyes, inhaling deeply. Then, for the first time since she'd met him, the armor slipped. He leaned forward and pressed his forehead against hers. No words, just the quiet hum of understanding between 2 people who'd both been running too long. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough, vulnerable. Stay. Just tonight. I'll stay, she said, her hand resting over his heart. They stayed there like that, rain tapping softly against the windows, 2 souls finding peace in a storm that had nearly swallowed them both. Weeks later, Seoul's headlines whispered about a foreign woman under the protection of a powerful businessman. No one knew the truth. But behind those closed doors, Aaliyah found something she hadn't known she was searching for. Not luxury, not power, but a kind of love that grew in the spaces between danger and tenderness. Sometimes, she'd tease him while watching the city lights. You know, you really should have just driven past that night. June would smirk, that faint scar catching the light. And miss my only good decision? She'd laugh, curling against him, safe at last. Because that night, the night she slipped into a stranger's car, had rewritten both their stories. And in the quiet hours before dawn, as Seoul slept beneath the rain, a girl who had once run for her life now dreamed of forever.